welcome to a very special edition of Michigan Women's Forum. We're here at the beautiful Farmington Community Library in Farmington Hills on 12 Mile Road. And today we're bringing you 4 local authors, local to Farmington Hills, who've each taken a different path to their dream of publishing success.
Well, I was going to be a writer. When I was this big, I knew it. But life, as they say, happens while you're busy making your plans. I married young. My childhood sweetheart, we met in first grade. And very quickly we welcomed 5 little babies. And I was immersed in wifehood, motherhood, and loving it. I really loved it. It was a good life. Well, it was my birthday, so I decided to give myself a gift. It just kind of popped into my head. Why can't I take an hour a day? Why can't I? So I started the second load of laundry, and I dragged out an old, battered, portable typewriter, and I set it on the kitchen table, and I set the timer on my stove because I couldn't afford more than an hour. And I wrote. And it was kind of fun. Didn't know what I was writing yet, although I thought it would be a mystery. Put it away and then did the rest of my day. Well, I did this every day for about 3 weeks. And I was getting a nice little pile of papers. And I was really getting into this story that had been playing through my head. So, okay, it took me about a year and a half to write that first book. And I sent it off with all my heart to the only game in town. In those days, Harlequin in Toronto was the only publisher of romantic novels. And this mystery had turned into a mystery romance, sort of by accident. Well, I sent it off, and I assumed that within a couple of weeks I would be rich and famous. I was going to be discovered, and so I'd better have the second one in good shape, so I started book 2. And I was nearly finished with book 2 before I got this big envelope in the mail, and I was home alone, and I just looked at it, and I thought, contracts! Oh, and I opened it up, and it was my manuscript, all tattered and ratty, and a form rejection letter. Dear author, they didn't even know my name. And yes, book 2 was coldly rejected. They still didn't know my name. But here's the thing. Somebody in that office very kindly enclosed a little form that shows you how to submit. I had done everything wrong you could think of, but I'm a good learner. Only did it that time, would never do it again. Now I knew, and I had all of these rules how to submit a manuscript. I had book 3 in pretty good shape. My husband came home. Now he was getting a little desperate for me. He really wanted this for me because he knows I'm dying inside. So he said, we're going out to California. He was going on a golf outing, and he said, you know, I've been talking to some guys. And I thought, oh, here it comes. And he said, no, this is not a joke. This guy, his cousin's gardener's uncle out in L.A. he knows somebody in publishing on the West Coast, and I've set up a meeting for you while I'm golfing in California. Okay, so he said, have this manuscript, this third book. Perfect. And the day before we left, my latest edition of The Writer magazine came. That was my Bible in those days. And there was a little blurb, and it said, Simon & Schuster in New York is starting a new line of paperback romances called Silhouette Books, and they're accepting the words unagented material. I had to do it. Even though I was going to take this the next day on a plane, I just couldn't do that. I had to send it to New York. And when we got home, there was the letter from Silhouette Books. Please send us the rest of the manuscript. I had it at the post office before the post office closed that day. But think about it. You know, when you talk about luck, it isn't luck. It's being prepared when the door is knocked. There's opportunity, and I had the third book, finally had learned how to write, had it perfectly typed. It was my destiny, I'm sure of that. So I have to tell you about the call because it came 2 days after New Year's. And if any of you have ever put up a Christmas tree with a family of 5 kids, you know that when you're putting up the tree, they're all there. They're not only there, they've got all their friends, their neighbors, and they all want to put it up. But the day you take it down, they disappear into the woodwork. So that was the day I was taking down my Christmas tree and putting tissue around thousands of little ornaments and then carrying them up to the attic and then hauling out a live tree and then vacuuming up 1,000,000 needles and then, of course, doing my usual 7 loads of laundry for the day. And so I have a load of towels. We use a lot of bath towels. 5 kids, you can imagine. And I'm going past the family room, and the phone rings, and my husband answers it, and I keep going, and he says, "Babe, it's an editor from New York." This wasn't the day for his little jokes. And I kept on going. And he's running behind me. He grabbed the towels out of my arms, and he nudged me over to the phone, and he said, "I'm telling you, I'm not pulling a fast one. This is not one of my jokes." And I said, "You know, babe, I am really not in the mood for hello." And I heard this sweet little voice say, "This is Nancy Jackson from Silhouette Books in New York. When you want to buy your book," and blah. She talked about advances, royalties, number of copies, foreign editions. She went on and on and on. And when she was all done, I said, "I'm sorry, but I don't know anything you said after you said you want to buy my book." And she just laughed and said, "Oh, I just love calling new authors. I always hear this. I'll send everything to you in writing."